In that video, we will cover functions in Python. We use Python functions to avoid duplication in our code. A function contains a block of statements that can be executed whenever it gets called. We will learn how to define and call a function, how to pass arguments to a function, and how to retrieve data from a function. Let's get started and learn how to define a function. A function is defined by the keyword def, followed by the function's name, parentheses, and colon. Then, the block of statement starts. You can add as many valid Python statements as you wish. The last indented line tells the Python interpreter that that's the end of the block. The function arguments are specified inside the parentheses, separated by comma. Finally, a function can return data to the user when it's called. It can either be a single or multiple returns. However, it's not required that a function has a return statement. Let's practice and we understand how to deal with Python functions. Let's define our first function. For that, we type def in the name of our function. I'll call it first function. I'll open and close parentheses and then colon. When I hit enter, note that we are indented. It basically means that the block of that function just started, and now we type any valid Python statement. Let's type that function has been executed. Then we can also print well done. Well done. All right. Now, if I run that code, look that nothing happened. And actually, it did happen. When the Python interpreter came to the line 6, now that function here is already defined. The only thing that we are missing is to call that function. How to call that function? You just type the name of the function. Don't forget to give the parentheses. Now, when I run it, we finally execute the block. Again, if you don't call the function, the Python interpreter will understand that the function is defined, but its block will not be executed, only if you call it. Our first function did not accept any argument. You often face the need to create functions which require data for further operations. We call it arguments. An argument is the data we pass to a function. We have a function called concatenator. It concatenates strings and lists data types. Note that in the definition of that function, we have two variables inside the parentheses, arg1 and arg2. Once that function is called, arg1 and arg2 will be available inside the function. Then, we print both arguments and their concatenation. The question to answer here is how to call a function which expects arguments. To call a function, we just need to type its name. Then, I will take concatenator, open and close parentheses. When I run that code, we get a type error. Why? Because we are missing two required arguments, which are arg1 and arg2. When calling a function, you must always provide the number of arguments it asks for. In our first example, we didn't have any argument, therefore we call it via its name plus empty parentheses, and that worked. But in that case, we need to add two arguments. Let me give my first list 1, 2, and then my second list 3, 4. When I save that code and run it, I see that my first list 1, 2 is assigned to arg1 and the second list is assigned to arg2 and their concatenation is 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. By default, arguments are passed by position. It means that if I just change and give that list first, what's going to happen? We get now 3, 4 assigned to arg1, 1, 2 assigned to arg2, and the concatenation 3, 4, 1, 2. Don't forget, by default, arguments are passed by position. Another way to pass arguments to a function is via the keyword argument. What is that? The variable of a function, that's what we call parameter variable. In that case, we have two parameters variable, arg1 and arg2. We can call that function doing the following. We first call the function as we normally do, just type in the name of the function. Now you assign to each parameter the value. Now if I say 3, 4, and the other one, let's say 1, 2, let's then comment line 14 and run that code. Alright, 3, 4 is assigned to arg1, 1, 2 is assigned to arg2, and the concatenation is 3, 4, 1, 2. Perfect. And now, if we change and just add arg2 first, but still assigning 1, 2 to that, let's see what happens. We still get the same result. Note that it does not matter which variable is assigned first. We always get the same result. When using keyword arguments, the order no longer matters. Let's do string concatenation using both methods, positional arguments and keyword arguments. Let's now uncomment line 14 and give our first argument h. Then, for my second argument, I'll give I. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna print. So when I print and I don't give any argument, we just get a new line in the terminal. For my second function call, I'm gonna use the keyword argument. Here, my second argument is again I. Then for my first argument is h. Let's run that code. I clean that screen and run it. The first 3 lines belongs to the first function call. Then we print and then we get that line here. And then we also get the print of the second function call. You see that they both work in the same way. You must choose in which manner you want to use it. I find the second way much easier to read. To retrieve data from a function, it's very simple. We just need to use the return statement. We have to assign the return of that function to a variable. Let's create a variable called answer, and I will assign to that variable the return of that function. Square root now has 1 argument. Let's just give that argument. I will say 4. And now we are expecting to get 2, right? Because 2 is the square root of 4. Be aware that the double star here means the exponentiation. Now, if I want to print the answer to the terminal, we just need to print answer. Alright, if I run that code, we get 2. Perfect. What if you want to pass more arguments to that function? Let me now give not only x, but y and z. I will then return the square root of y and zeta as well. Okay, for calling that function, you see that we have 3 arguments. Therefore, we should provide 3 arguments as well. And that function no longer returns a single value, but multiple values. The way a function does that is via a data type called tuple. Let me show you that. The result or the return of that function will be assigned to answer. Now we are asking Python to print in the terminal the answer. When I run that code, I will clean it. We get 2, 4, and 8. And how do I know that it is a tuple data type? Because 2, 4, and 8 comes in between parentheses. We saw that when it comes between square brackets, that's what defines a list. When it comes between parentheses, and then that's a tuple data type. To access each element of a tuple is similar to what we did when learning about lists. We can do that via indexing. Remember that index in Python starts with 0. Then, let's just retrieve the first element of that tuple. I will say result 1 is equal to answer, which is a tuple. Now we get the first element. How many elements are there? 3, right? So then we get 1, then 2, and result 2 and 3. Finally, we can also print the results. I will say result 1. We can also print 2 and 3. When I save that code, clean my screen and run it, we finally get the tuple, which is 2, 4, 8, and the individual results, 2, 4, and 8. There is a better way to directly access multiple return of a function, And we do that by that thing called unpacking. Let me just comment all of that. I will type unpacking. And then we call the function again. What is the name? Square root. Now you can directly give the values here. Result 1, result 2, and result 3. Now, if I print those values or those variables, we can see that we directly get it. To show you how the default argument works, I'm going to be using the concatenator example. The concatenator function accepts two arguments, arg1 and arg2. In the block of that function, we create a variable called concatlist, and we assign to that list arg1 plus arg2, and then we return it. Now, to call it, we just need to write the name of the function and provide toList. If I just save that code and run it, we get 2974. What if you want to sort that list in case something happens? And that's where I'm going to introduce you to the default argument. Let's create here a third argument called toSort. And we're going to assign to that toSort variable false. We call it default argument because by default it has a value assigned to it. And now we can test. If toSort is equal to true, what we can do, we can use the concat list, and you remember the method called sort. We just saw it in the video about list methods. If that toSort is assigned to true, we're gonna sort that list. If I run that code, you see that even though it asks for 3 arguments, we are only providing 2 because the third one is a default argument. Let's just call that function again, and now provide the toSort argument. And now I will assign to true. Then let's just print result. If I clean the terminal and run that code, we get 2974, and that's the return of the first function call, and later we get 2479, and that's the second return. When we call that function for the second time, now we are assigned true to that toSort variable. Then that condition here returns true, therefore the line 9 is executed. What it does, it just sorts that concatenated list, and then we get 2479. And that's it. That's the way you can use default argument to make your list a bit more flexible. There you are. That's functions in Python. In the next video, we'll talk about how to read and write data to a text file. Thanks for watching.